ceasefire was announced, but just hours later, reports claimed the fighting hadn't actually stopped. And that raises a much bigger question. If Israel and Hezbollah agreed to stop fighting, why are diplomats suddenly scrambling to save U.S. Iran peace talks? Here's why this story matters far beyond Lebanon. On Friday, U.S. officials said Israel and Hezbollah had agreed to a ceasefire after a sharp escalation of violence in Lebanon. The timing was critical. Just days earlier, Washington and Tehran had signed an interim agreement aimed at reducing tensions across the region. That agreement reportedly required fighting on all fronts to end immediately, including Lebanon, but then new strikes occurred. Suddenly, a local conflict risked becoming a diplomatic crisis. According to reports, President Donald Trump personally pushed for a ceasefire. The reason is simple. The United States is trying to prevent a wider regional conflict. If fighting between Israel and Hezbollah continues, it could undermine negotiations with Iran, and those negotiations may influence everything from regional security to global energy markets. In other words, this wasn't just about Lebanon. It was about preventing a larger geopolitical breakdown. Even after the ceasefire announcement, reports suggested tensions remained high. A Hezbollah source claimed Israeli forces were still operating in Lebanese territory. Israeli officials did not immediately comment. That uncertainty is exactly what worries diplomats, because ceasefires only work when both sides trust that the other side will actually follow them. And right now, that trust appears extremely fragile. The bigger story may actually be Iran. Peace talks between Washington and Tehran were expected to continue in Switzerland. But the renewed violence reportedly forced delays. Iran reportedly demanded guarantees that hostilities in Lebanon would end before negotiations moved forward. That means events on one border could affect diplomatic decisions hundreds of miles away. This is how regional conflicts become international ones. Most headlines focus on missiles, strikes, and military movements, but the real story is often what happens behind closed doors. Negotiations, deals, diplomatic pressure, and fragile agreements that can collapse overnight. This ceasefire may reduce tensions, or it may simply buy time, and that uncertainty is what the world is watching right now. The question isn't whether a ceasefire was announced. The question is whether it will hold, because if it doesn't, the consequences could reach far beyond Lebanon, and that's why this story matters. Do you think this ceasefire will actually hold?